What's going on, y'all? We're back here at the Modern Poet NYC. My name is Gene. I'm here with Kamayera no Soko. We're going to get into his new spoken word album, Blackberry Molasses.
Yeah.
Kamayera, thank you so much for being here today.
No doubt, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this.
It is our pleasure. It is an honor. Can we start off by having you introduce yourself?
Yes. I go by the name of Kamayera no Soko. I am a spoken word artist out of the Bronx, New York, Hunts Point to be exact. I am the son of immigrant parents from West Africa, Mali to be specific. I'm also a big brother. I'm an uncle. I'm a nephew, you know what I'm saying? And I'm a son of God. So yeah, that's I guess the essence of who I am. I'm also like a mental health advocate, things of that nature. And I have little quirks about myself outside of poetry that I'm sure we'll dwell into this interview. But yeah.
Absolutely, bro. So you started recently introducing yourself as Kamayera no Soko in your full name. What was that switch, or why did you switch that, and what does that mean to you to have conducted that switch?
I think that's me being the superhero for my inner child, right? Like, you don't realize I didn't realize for myself how many microaggressions I went through when I pronounce my name to someone. They say, "Hey, can I shorten that, or can I give you a nickname? Can I call you Cam? Can I call you Cam?" Like, I don't know you, bro. No, you can't call me that. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I think one is just like, I know people have said King Kamayera and stuff like that. I don't want them to confuse who I am on the stage versus off the stage. I am the same exact person. The same stuff I speak about on stage is the same person I am off the stage, right? So for me, it's just more so a statement in this new era that I'm entering. You know, Kamayera no Soko at the end of the day is me keeping my lineage alive as well. That last name no Soko, that comes from my grandfather, West African Malian roots, Mali once again, and I want to make sure I'm proud of that. And again, that's something I was ashamed about when I was younger. So now I'm stepping into this purpose of poetry, which I feel, again, being in the poetry space and mental health advocacy space, I want to make sure that I'm stepping in with, what my birth name is, the name that God gave me.
Yeah, that's so important, bro. When my dad found out, I was telling everyone my name was Gene. He was like, "What did I give you this whole name for? If you're just gonna shorten it to Gene?" So I feel that absolutely.
Gotcha.
So you mentioned you grew up in Hunts Point, in the Bronx. So can you tell us a little more about where you grew up? What was that like?
Oh man, I don't realize. I saw this clip on Instagram one time, and this guy was talking about like just growing up from New York, and it's like, yo, do you realize we normalize a lot of trauma? You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of shit that we go through is not normal. Like, I have people who have got shot in my building. I have people who have died on my neighborhood, and it's like like a visual, like a mural right there. And when people come visit me, I'm like, yeah, somebody died right there. They got shot.
And that's just like a normal.
Yeah, and it's just like a normal thing. They're like, what the hell? Like, like, should I like leave? Like, should we go somewhere else? I'm like, nah, this is the hood, So, a lot of violence, a lot of drug dealing, it was just an environment like you either have two choices, right? You be strong, resilient, and disciplined. And I think that's what my father tried to, did his best to instill in me and my siblings and make it out of here, or you just become a byproduct of your environment. So, you had either, growing up in the neighborhood I did those are the two choices you only had. So, I'm sure I'm glad that I had the first part of just saying I don't want to be the byproduct of my environment, but also with poetry, tell the stories of the people that are the byproducts of that. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Yeah,
and I think your father certainly did a great job because you're sitting here right now.
Right.
Talking about your so shout out to Pops.
Yeah, for sure. Word.
Did you ever have any moments growing up, or just in general, did you ever have to tuck certain parts of your identity as a child?
Yeah, and I think that goes into a deeper discussion of what masculinity is defined as, right? Just the vulnerable side of me, you know what I'm saying? The side of me that wants to talk about deep stuff or feelings or just even cry. That stuff, I just had to put up a front, you know what I'm saying? I say it in my poem May 9th, he puts up a front, you know what I'm saying? And it's just it was just a lot of concealing who I truly was. And I feel like, I always say this, right? From the day that you're born till about 22, 23, when you graduate college, you're learning a lot of things about yourself. There's a lot of transitional phases about you, right? But then from 23 till I want to say when you get to 30, you're unlearning all those toxic habits, or unlearning to hiding yourself. don't ever try to, camouflage to just be a part. Like, be truly, authentically who you are. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot of parts of myself that had to, and I think most of it too was kind of like a survival instinct kind of thing. Like, if you show any weakness in any part of the hood, like, you are gonna get taken advantage of, or something bad is gonna happen to you. So, for sure, I had to make sure that side was concealed and only shown to loved ones. But now I'm showing it to the world. So, definitely a great way of growing, I guess. Or
so, what would you say to anybody that's experiencing that right now, where they feel like they have to hide certain parts of themselves?
I think the easy answer is to say, just be authentic to yourself. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have any role models or a community that shows that, what makes you think that person is going to do that? So I think one is just finding a community that, embodies what you want to eventually be. Like, that is the main thing. That is the main thing. Finding a community first, finding influence, inspiration within that community, and then living your life based off that. That is the main thing. Community is power, and community is enrichment, and community is everything.
So outside of family, where did you find your first instances of community?
Honestly, being a part of a basketball team, playing sports definitely saved my life, like 100%. You know what I'm saying? Outside, like, the discipline, of course, my family, instilled in me. I want to say, like, being a part of an AAU team, high school basketball team, playing football and stuff like that, having those times, you don't see black boys crying unless I remember times, we were tough, we were playing these basketball games, and then we lose a championship game, and then this is the first time I'm seeing my peers cry. You know what I'm saying?
And it's okay. Nobody's judging.
And it's okay. Nobody's judging you. But then also too, I want to challenge, this isn't the only time we're supposed to cry. Just because we lose a basketball game, it shouldn't be the only time this is acceptable. This should be it's healthy to actually cry. You know what I'm saying? This should be something you should apply to all aspects of your life. So I definitely found that, initially, in my basketball teams, in my football teams. And then, eventually just, when I got to college, just, dealing or just, having friends that were just more emotionally intelligent than the friends I dealt with when I was younger, it just, helped me grow just holistically, you know what I'm saying? Word.
So it's great to hear that you had that expressiveness on the court first, but eventually you found ways to take that expressiveness off the court. Right. And now you have your first ever spoken word album, Blackberry Molasses. Right. First of all, congratulations.
Thank
brother.
You, man. Thank you. I appreciate that.
We've known each other for a couple of years now, and I know that this is something that you've been building towards, and you're here. Right. So first I want to ask, where does the name Blackberry Molasses come from?
If I do come out with an album 2 years from now, 3 years from now, right? They say, and let's say I come out with 5, 6 albums, right? And anyone ever asks me, what was your most important album? What was the most significant album in your career? Blackberry Molasses is the album. This is an album that took my whole 29, 28 years to write, to make. So this album, the title in itself comes from the inspiration I took from Tupac, and that's how I got into poetry or writing itself. Yeah. So Tupac Shakur, his favorite song before he passed away, I do a bunch of research, watch a lot of interviews, read a lot of articles, and before he passed away in 1996, his favorite song was called Blackberry Molasses, which was from a group called Mista, and the song in itself just talks about being perseverant, being resilient, and just moving on forward with despite all the hassles and struggles that life gives you. So, I just wanted to take that title and embody that with every track in my album. And even the name Molasses, right? That is a thick, dark syrup. The process is just like refining refining a certain sugar cane, you know what I'm saying? But the symbolic meaning is resilience, depth, and passion, and I wanted to make sure that the album in itself and the title, the tracks that I have embody that title. So,
Right. So musicality is, I think, a strong part of the album's identity. And you mentioned Tupac as one of your musical influences. Who else did you look up to? And did they have any impact on how the album played out?
Oh, yes, for sure. So me, Jamal, and Gordon, we was having a conversation about the poetry landscape and stuff like that, right? Just to give some context, right? And me and Jamal and Gordon, we all saying we children of hip hop. We didn't come into the poetry space listening to poetry. We came in listening to hip hop. But then Jamal said but poetry is like the grandpa. You know what I'm saying? So I'm if poetry the grandpa, hip hop is the father, then R&B is like the uncle, you know what I'm saying? Soul music is like the auntie, funk music is like the cousin, you know what I'm saying? So for me, like being a child of hip hop and being like relatives to all these other genres, like this is what I grew up on. All these sounds, you know what I'm saying? Listening to, I'm thinking about the first time I heard Through the Wire, you know what I'm saying? Looking at that music video, thinking about the soul sample that Kanye took and like the feeling that it gave me, right? With all these genres, right? The one thing I remember is the feeling that it gave me. The first time I listened to Umu Sangare, again, I didn't grow up like particularly on hip hop music. Like I came from West African parents and it was all West African music. The first time I listened to Salif Keita, Tomorrow, like all those instruments, you know what I'm saying? Again, music is a universal language, you know what I'm saying? So for me, my inspirations were, again, Umu Sangare, Salif Keita, you know, Lauryn Hill, you know, Kanye West, Outkast, I'm trying to think, Whitney Houston for sure, Sade. You know, I could go on and on and on, but I think the most imperative thing for me with this album was to make sure the musicality didn't drown out the messaging within the poetry. I think a lot of poets sometimes kind of get caught up in like, okay, I'm listening to the musicality. I don't know what you're saying with the poetry, but the musicality sounds good. Or like I'm listening to poetry, but it doesn't match what the musicality is saying, right? So what I wanted to do with this album is make sure they were synchronized perfectly. So yeah, so a lot of those, again, being relatives of those other genres, I also want to make sure Grandpa, in terms of poetry, knew I was keeping the essence of what this art form could look like.
And you paid that respect back.
Right, exactly.
Did you learn anything about yourself during the process of creating the album?
You know, it's so funny. My friend Matt, right, my best friend Matt in college, he used to always say, man, you have no rhythm, you got no ear, and shit like that. You know, he's just like
there's always that one friend that's going jack that, bro.
He was like, man, can you tell a note, man? He was doing like the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I'm like, nah, I can't, bro. But I realized about myself, man, I do have musical instincts, you know? I can't sing for shit, you know what I'm saying? But I know what I hear and I know what sounds good and what it makes me feel, you know what I'm saying? So I think more than anything, I learned that I have an ear and then I learned to trust my instincts. Stop second guessing yourself, you know? I watched a lot of Tyler, the Creator interviews, and he said this one quote that really resonated with me. He said, yo, make sure to create like a child, but edit like a scientist, you know what I'm saying? So what that taught me is like, yo, like you still have that inner child in you that still remembers growing up watching that Fall Out Boy music video that made you like dance, or that listening to Dance Dance for the first time, or All American Rejects, or that Amy Winehouse song, you know what I'm saying? So just trust those instincts, you know what I'm saying? They've never left you, you're just relearning them. That's the one thing I learned about myself. Word.
Real, bro. So you've created this thing, you put the scientists to work to create this beautiful album. Who needs to hear it?
Everybody needs to hear this album, son. I think most importantly, you know, I guess like I can like specify the demographic. Every black person needs to hear this album. You know, I think this encompasses everything. It encompasses love, mental health, you know, struggles within the black community, but also persevering. It's not just like fully just trauma. It's a celebration of our skin. It's a celebration of our culture. It's a celebration overall of the African diaspora. So to answer your question, everyone of the African diaspora needs to hear this album, for sure. Outside of poetry, everyone needs to hear this album, you know. And what's sad is, man, I know I'm going off on a tangent a bit, but like, you know, we listen to hip hop music, we listen to pop music, even as poets, like poets ourselves, we don't listen to poetry albums like that. I'm listening to other poets. I'm like, I know y'all don't listen to albums like poetry albums like that, but yo, I promise you this is a great album. So again, I think also ourselves, like that is the most imperative thing. We need to celebrate ourselves more. If we want to push this culture forward as poets, why are we not listening to our albums more? You know what I'm saying? Like what albums outside of myself do we know is gonna get nominated for a Grammy, you know, this upcoming year? Like let's listen to these albums. Let's listen to Tank and the Bangers, the J. Ivies, the Princess Powers, you know what I'm saying? The Omar Hardwicks. So yeah, I think again, like poets should listen, but everyone the intention for the album was for everyone in the African diaspora to listen to that joint.
Yeah. Word. I mean, I find that what we do a lot as poets is we put disclaimers on our own work.
Right.
I know it's a poetry album, but
Nah.
It's an album.
Yeah, it's an album. I'm like,
nah.
I told people, I was like, nah, this is an amazing album. I'm not putting no disclaimer. You are going to enjoy this album. You know what I'm saying? I know you don't listen to poetry like that, but you are going to enjoy this album. I wasn't wrong. You know what I'm saying? And Yeah, again, I think it's not only the confidence in myself and my abilities to make a great album, but I think the confidence in the art form itself, poetry, where it can go to, and how far it's evolved from, roses are red, violets are blue kind of, simple stuff till where it is now. We have a lot of great writers, a lot of great artists in this space right now. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
So you're talking about that confidence in yourself. What do you take the most pride in as a writer and as a poet?
To not use ChatGPT for writing. Let me stop.
I hate that we gotta say that. No, but you really, we gotta say that. We gotta say that.
I'm good. No, so the biggest pride I take myself is conveying, because at the end of the day, a writer, right, your job is to convey a message.
Yeah.
Convey a message to the audience in your most unique way. I say my biggest pride now is making sure I can write a poem or do a spoken word performances that no one else can do. And that just means telling more about my story and my life. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Everyone can have social commentary, everyone can talk about love, but can they talk about my love life, my experience being Black, my experience with my family? Can they talk about my dad, my mom? They can't do that. So the biggest pride I take right now is telling my story and conveying my message in my own unique way.
Yeah, for sure. I feel so many people voice this idea that they don't know how to be unique with their work, or that they don't know what direction they should take their work in, but the blueprint has already been laid out.
Yeah.
It's your life.
It's literally your life, son.
Because if you write you're inherently writing something nobody else has written before.
Exactly.
So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, no doubt.
So get into one of the songs real quick.
Okay.
In Let's Be, you say, "Let this poetry be a lifesaver. Revitalize the dying breed of poets that do this, not for the likes, but because poetry saved their lives."
I'm nice, shit.
That's why we here. What impact do you feel social media and likes and the culture around that have had on the art form?
I love that you asked this question, because it's a good and a bad thing, right? I think social media, everyone can be a poet now, which is a great thing, you know what I'm saying? Because the more the merrier for this community, right. But it's also I don't want to say a bad thing, because art is subjective, but it's now everyone is putting content. So now what that creates is an oversaturation of, poets. Mm-hmm. And in social media too, with the toxic thing, and it has happened to me. So I'm not speaking from someone that's just overseeing, it has happened to me, and I've been a victim of this. The virality. Mm-hmm. Everyone is chasing that 10K followers or that 1 million view video, and it's all for the wrong reasons. It's now when you see a poet go viral, you're damn, I feel like I can write a better poem than that, and why hasn't my poem go viral? Now your intention behind your art changes. Completely. And then it's poetry, art just in general is about feeling. When in the world did we start putting a metric on that? You know what I'm saying? You telling me that that person who has, I've seen poets who have no followers or doesn't have no Instagram, or maybe only 1,000 followers, who have made me feel more than that poet who has 1 million followers. And this is no shade to any of that, but I think we need to get out of the mind frame of yo, I need to go viral to be a poppin' poet. I need to get 10K followers to be a relevant poet. No, if you can make people feel, at the end of the day, a person, a poet specifically, but an artist member can tell the intentionality behind your work, whether you're trying to chase clout or you're really telling your story and you're being genuine within your poetry. So I think it hurts poetry in the sense of people trying to chase that virality, you know what I'm saying, to get booked more and stuff like that, instead of being genuine to why they started this art form in the first place.
Very well said.
Yeah, word.
So something that comes up a lot, I think through multiple of the tracks on the album, is the idea of self-love. Mm-hmm. What does self-love mean to you?
The love you never gave to yourself as a child. I think under the theme of self-love, or this album, again, this was made for before I put this album out, I said to myself, I'm creating this for myself. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Just being that superhero version of yourself, putting yourself first, taking care of yourself, not mixing up, not using tolerance as a metric of love, and understanding boundaries is imperative if you're gonna move forward in life. So yeah, just loving your inner child first. I think that's what self-love means to me. That is, most imperative.
Heavy on the boundaries, right?
Right.
I feel like that's where a lot of us fall short. Just being able to set boundaries at work, at school, and our personal lives with our family members.
Yes.
Like, there's people who don't believe they can put up boundaries with their family members.
Right. And it's like, because it's like they, we grew up in an immigrant household, so it's like this guilt tripping thing. I don't want to go too deep into it. That's a different conversation, but it's like, that translates into other aspects in your life. I see it coming. I see that happening to me in work. I'm like, yo, I gotta leave at 5:30. My boss says, oh, can you stay till like 5:50, 6 o'clock? I'm like, man, okay, are you gonna love yourself first, or are you gonna put yourself in the are you putting yourself in the back seat? So yeah, at the end of the day, just putting yourself first, even if that means disappointing other people. That's what self-love is.
Absolutely. We actually recently did a workshop along with Alyssa from Nova Essence called Dear Brother, and that was really a self-care workshop that was geared towards talking about Black men's mental health. How important is that subject for you? What was the motivation for you hosting this workshop?
To answer this, I think most importantly, so I realized I had spaces of vulnerability with my father, right? He was the first man I could cry to, the first man I could hug.
That's a blessing.
Right, you know what I'm saying? And I realized a lot of people don't have that opportunities, and it shows up in how they act, like a fellow brother, how they treat me. They looking at me crazy because their father wasn't there for them. It's all internalized. It's not personal, so for me, growing up being a shy kid, I always said to myself, like, I'm gonna get into poetry. This is amazing. But also, with being a poet, you have to realize your voice has other powers, and how are you using your voice beyond the stage? I think that's imperative. A lot of poets forget that. Like, you can be on the stage 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and that is an awesome time. But what work are you doing off the stage to further push your message that you are spreading on the stage? Are you just doing it for claps and snaps, or are you really out there doing the work? So I guess that's one part of it. But what I feel like this is essential. Black men, just in general, right? Unless it's sports, a party involved with a lot of girls, or some concert, we don't really get together and talk about our feelings. I feel like women, the reason they have more long-standing friendships, or more friends just in general, is because they were born into a space where women can't express emotions. Like it was normalized for them. So like these relationships that they have, it just comes together. They can talk about their feelings. They can talk about what they're sad, mad, and stuff like that. We over here telling them, nah, you being a B word, you are being sensitive, you know what I'm saying? So now we don't express ourselves. I think a lot of Black men, we just need a space to talk about these things. You know what I'm saying? We don't do it enough. I think, we had this conversation. I had a conversation with Alyssa, like, man, I see everyone pull up for a party when I'm going to, or like when I invite them to a party. I see everyone pull up for like all these different events, but when it's an event that's essential for our mental health, it's crickets. I know we had, trouble selling tickets, but I think this is imperative. I don't know of many men's mental health spaces out there in New York City. And New York City is the biggest city in the fucking, like 8 million people in this, you know what I'm saying? And so again, I think it is essential because we are the generation to remove the stigma from taking care of our mental health. Yeah. And, the next generation is going to do 10 times better. So right now, I think we're unlearning a lot of things our lineage or ancestors or, parents have learned. Yeah. And bringing that here. So right now we're stuck in this like purgatory, in a sense of like, what does mental health look like for us, and how do we create more safe spaces? Again, I feel like a lot of women show up for wellness spaces and stuff like that. Men, I think we have to normalize like, hey, it's okay to come to these spaces and talk about yourself. And honestly, too, I think like facilitators or whoever are running these programs have to make it comfortable for those men, because like a lot of men ain't gonna share their feelings with their friends. So what makes you think they're gonna share it with some strangers? So yeah.
I mean, and that's so real of what you're saying about the spaces that exist, right? I have a good friend of mine, Esther, who runs a program with Great Taste, and they do different wellness events and activities, and she's told me like 95% of their attendees are women. Right. And that's not an exaggeration.
Women show up, man.
And I think it starts from such an early age, like when kids are doing sleepovers, like girls are going over there, you know, they might be playing with Barbies or whatever, but the Barbies have whole emotional lives and complexes.
Right, in their heads, right?
Yeah, in their heads, right? And then they're talking about their feelings and boys and things and conversation. For us, we're playing football and basketball during the day, we're playing video games at night. Like, you don't have to actually have any conversations during a sleepover, right? So there's so many ways that it starts very early, and you know, but it's never too late to create that space for someone to immerse yourself in that type of space. So I really appreciate the mission, the drive that you have right now to do this in this day and age.
No, for sure.
How do you feel this side of you really services in Blackberry Molasses?
How does it service in Blackberry Molasses? I think there's strength in your vulnerability, and that's what I think I do it throughout the whole album. You know, throughout the whole album, you hear 988. You know, that if you don't know, that is the phone number you call for the New York City suicide hotline. And I remember the first time I thought about mental health, that poem in itself was inspired by the first time I called 988 because I felt very suicidal for a job I was dealing with back in 2020. If you hear May 9th, you know, just telling my life story, you know what I'm saying? You see what I've been through. I'm putting up a front. I want to play with guns and switches. I switch up my whole personality just so I can camouflage within, you know, the community or like where I come from, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think it shows up in a lot of ways. I'm trying to think of other tracks, even like, you know, even the soft tracks, right? Miss Infinity, or what's the joint? Birds of Paradise that Tiani B produced. Yeah. Like, I appreciate that. Shout out to Tiani B. She produced that joint. But even like letting that softness of like, hey, I can love a black woman and it's okay. I think we live such in a society now. It's like, yo, I remember just growing up in high school. In high school, it's like, yo, you love her, yo, you day room. Or like, it's just like certain terms that was used. And like just hip hop, if you think about like hip hop culture and like, you know, hip hop culture was like, yo, like I do, you know, masculinity meant conquering as many women as you can rather than like loving one woman, which I think we should, right? So just to take it back, I think it serves itself by how vulnerable I am in each track of those albums. I think it's the most rawest I've ever been. And I think I fully embody that in the album.
Are you ever worried that your vulnerability might be exploited by people, that you might get called out for it, that you know, other men are going to take a stance against you really just expressing yourself? Does that ever cross your mind?
Nah, because I think that says a lot more about them and how uncomfortable they are in their masculinity or vulnerability. If I'm getting exploited for my vulnerability, I think what I'm doing is being a superhero for those who can't even express themselves. So anyone that looks at it any other way, you know, that's their problem. You know, I have no issues, no worries about that at all. This is my life story, and more than anything, I don't have no worries at all about getting exploited.
I respect that.
For sure.
So Kamayera, let me ask you, what is faith to you? What do you put your faith in?
Faith is everything. If you don't, I didn't realize this till I listened to the album, like maybe the second, third time, like just listening back before I released it. Every song, every title, except for the famous interlude where I have Andre 3000 in, every part I say God in. And I didn't realize that. I was like, wow, you know, so faith is everything to me. I grew up in an Islamic household, you know, but I also grew up around a lot of Christians too, you know what I'm saying? So just having that higher power and like, it humbles me. I don't ever want to walk into a room with ego, because at that point I am disrespecting the gift that God gave me. You know what I'm saying? It's everything to me. He gave this to me for a reason, and I want to use it with intention. So yeah, it's everything to me, and it's the reason why I'm sitting here today.
Bro, the way that relates to a poem, I literally just wrote at like 1 a.m.
Oh, did I?
I'm gonna share it with you after we do it. But that part, heavy on that part.
Dope.
So before the album's release, you started a challenge that took the poetry world by storm. And I'm talking about people you never met before participating in this. You know, I've seen people at open mics that you weren't even in. And they were like, so I don't know if y'all seen, but there's been this challenge going around lately by someone, I don't know his name, but it's been writing these poems, and half the room is like, yo!
That's all good.
Like, how did that idea even come about, and how do you feel about how everything played out?
That's it's really awesome. First of all, I want to thank everyone that participated in that joint. That's it just shows what unity can do. But okay, so I remember I lost the slam one time, and it's always when you lose a slam, you know what I'm saying? You're like, damn, you know what I'm saying? And I got frustrated because I feel like my poems were really good. The winner, he did his thing, but I'm like, man, my poem, I was with a personification poem. Like the metaphors was in, the allegory was crazy. And I'm like, yo, the first time I just thought to my head while I was on the train, like, I've been writing these poems. And at first I approached it with anger and just frustration of not. So that's why you even hear the first line. I've been writing these poems, pouring my blood on these pages, leaving my soul on these stages, and the sacrifices still feel like they're not enough. I'm like, I'm doing all these things. I'm like doing research. I'm like learning about everything that's going on in my life, the trauma that's going on in my life, and putting it on the stages. And I'm not. But it's like, wait, hold on, revert back. What is your intentionality with your gift, right? Are you doing this to win slams, or are you doing this to spread a message, right? So that was one. So, but when I wrote that, I was like, been writing these poems, right? So a lot of times when I write a lot of my poems, right, being a child of hip hop, I write them sometimes in repetitive choruses. So I've like been writing these poems, Miss Infinity and Beyond. If you hear part 2, it's like Miss Infinity and Beyond. To my Miss Infinity and Beyond. I have this new poem I'm working on now. It's like, today I learned. So I have these things where it's like I bring the elements again of hip hop into my writing. Been writing these poems. When I was writing it, I was like, when you think about hip hop, right? Every region kind of has an anthem, right? In New York City, it's like you think cash rules everything around me, cream. In Atlanta, I come from Atlanta where the play is played, the Ludacris song. When you go to the West Coast, you know what I'm saying? When you think of Dr. Dre and Snoop, I can't even think of the song right now. But, there's just certain anthems that they have. And I thought to myself, the closest thing poetry has to an anthem or like some kind of remix is doing an after poem by someone. I'm like, yo, what if I just make this like an anthem for us? I've been writing these poems. There's no deep like contextual meaning behind it. You make it your own story. And so when I first like wrote the poem, I was like, I think this is a phenomenal poem. I did it for like a group piece with Black Men Write. Shout out to the Dope Poets. We did that first. Yeah. Phenomenal show. We did that group piece. But I said to myself, like, this means something more. I don't know why I've been writing these poems. That just sounds like an anthem for poets. You know what I'm saying? So I talked to Ali. I was like, yo, I want to make this a challenge, y'all. I'm not really big on challenges and doing that stuff, but I was like, yo, I feel like this is something a lot of poets can really tap into. I put it out there. I said, yo, I honestly didn't think nobody was gonna really tap in. You know what I'm saying? I think I had like low engagement that day too when I posted it. Yeah. Like when I put it up on my story, like the challenge. The video itself, I know it kind of was doing numbers and stuff like that. But again, I don't try to put a metric on feelings. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it made you feel, that's what it made you feel. So I think when I started seeing people do it, I think again it shows. If you take away, I'm a slam poet, or I'm just a page poet, or I'm an open mic poet, and we all just come together and collab, we can make a beautiful movement like this times 10. Like this should be a regular thing, you know what I'm saying? So I think been writing these poems just showed what the unity in the poetry community can look like if we remove the egos and remove the titles of ourselves. So word. Yeah, that was a phenomenal time.
An opening of the door.
Yeah, just an opening of the door just to see where we go. And it's so funny. Sometimes when I perform the piece, they're like, oh, you've been writing these poems. I'm like, man, I think some people don't know I'm the creator of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a funny thing. And then I see someone else get a bigger reaction when they do it. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. You know?
I mean, it's one of those things. I think with all things on social media, like once it's out there, you got it. It becomes its own thing.
It becomes its own thing. Yep. So yeah.
But staying with the album, you mentioned Ali, who was one of the features.
Oh yeah.
And you had, Tiani B, you had Currents on there, several people.
Yep.
How did you go about selecting the people that you were going to work with for the album?
So it goes back to a question that you asked earlier, and like, what did you learn about yourself when you were creating this album? And I said, trusting your instinct, that inner child. When I heard Ali, Tiani B, Current, Winston, Ely James, she's on Blackberry doing the humming and stuff like that, like just the angelic ad-libs. They all made me feel something. So what I wanted to do with this project is make sure you felt every aspect of it. You felt my words, you felt the choruses, you felt the ad-libs. Every essential part needed to be felt by the listener. So and I'm personally fans of all of these people too, you know what I'm saying? Generally, and great friends with them too. So it just was about a relationship thing, and also like what I know you can do to the mic, what I know you can do on this album. And also it was a funny thing too, I don't want to say challenge, but it was first time kind of thing for two of the artists. So Current, I remember, you know, if you've seen Current perform, Current, I know he does a lot of like love pieces, but his voice is just very, I think he can do topics about anything. When he was singing the chorus, he's like, man, this is not, like, he was telling me, he's like, we talked about, he's like, yo, this is not something I really like, you know, sing the topics I sing about, but I'm like, no, bro, like, challenge yourself. Like, this is something, you can do it, bro. And everybody's telling me like, yo, that's one of my favorite tracks. And Current's like, I ain't even listen to it. I'm like, yo, bro, like, you gotta, bro, people are fucking with it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So like, I hope that, you know, Current again, like, just pushes himself artistically because, of course, you see what he did with 988. So, and Tiani B, that was her first produced track ever. That's something she's always wanted to do, and she fucking nailed it, son. That I have a reference in the Birds of Paradise where I say, you know, I said a Kendrick reference. And I didn't even realize in the chorus, she took the money trees. That's just how I feel. Like, she made that melodic thing. Like, that's just how I feel. I didn't realize that until like I was reading the read-up. I was like, oh shit, Tiani B. So again, all these artists that I picked out are people that are just phenomenal artists, you know what I'm saying? And they made me feel, and I see something more for them themselves. And I hope that this collaboration on this project gives them the confidence to go ahead and do whatever they want, because you know, obviously they were able to contribute to me, so they can definitely do it for themselves.
So shout out to you for platforming them. I think a lot of people with their first albums, they try to get big names on there. They pursue the big features, and you were like, who do I like? Yeah, what I like,
working
on, and I think that's a great way to go about it.
Yeah, and just be genuine with the connections that I've made throughout the open mic community, and also like, yo, network across. You don't have to always network up. I learned that from Issa Rae, you know, like that's, so that's my thing, word.
Has your family had a chance to sit with the album?
You know what's so funny? My dad has listened to certain snippets. My mom, she just, as long as I ain't saying nothing crazy or stupid, you know what I'm saying? She's just like, yo, do your thing. Yeah. My brother and my sister, they're big music heads. My brother, he actually put me on to Nirvana. So he's been playing bass since he was young. My sister too, she plays the bass. They heard the albums and they loved it. And I that meant a lot to me because I know they are catching nuances and stuff like that, like the average listener is not. So yes, my brother, my sister listened to it. My father, I think, when's the last time you cried? I want him to listen. He hears bits, again, he has heard bits and pieces and he likes it. But I think one day I'm gonna sit down with him and just play the song. You know, again, that song, I kind of skip it when I listen to my own album because it makes me emotional. Yeah. But one day I want him to listen to that one song.
I mean, having heard that song, I absolutely want him to listen to it.
Yeah. Yes, so yeah. I appreciate that, man. Word.
So, when we are 10 to 20 years down the road, what do you want Blackberry Molasses to represent for your career?
I want it to be the staple of what poetry can be. I want every kid, every poet 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now to listen to Blackberry Molasses the same way I listen to Miseducation, the same way what I felt when I listened to College Dropout, what I felt when I listened to, you know, Friday Night Lights, what I felt when I listened to the first Whitney Houston self-titled album. I just want this to be kind of like a timestamp and staple of what the poetry evolution can be overall for my career. In terms of if it makes me famous, if I win the Grammy, I mean, you know, like I'm just thinking highly, right? If I do all that stuff, again, it matters in a sense, but if I can influence the poets for the next generation to push this genre forward, then my job is done. You know, it's beyond me. It's what I can do for the next generation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if people can just hear Famous, they can hear 988, they hear Let's Be and say, wow, I'm inspired to do something just like this, go into the studio. Yeah. Again, we do ourselves. It was your workshop when you did that, the film joint, you know, for your workshop when you had those visuals. Somebody said something very important. I think poetry in itself, we do ourselves a disservice by only being available in 2 mediums. That's performance and page. And performance is like, yo, you're not gonna perform that same piece the same time you performed it that last time at that slam or whatever. But I say that to say, like, yo, I want people or poets to see that, like, yo, we can record our favorite pieces and have people listening to it back instead of having them catch us at another show and hoping we perform that same piece during our set, you know? So that's all I want it to be. I want audio to be the other medium that is normalized in poetry. Yeah.
And I think this links back to what we talked about as well with social media, right?
Right.
not necessarily going for the accolades and the numbers, but really having that lasting impact.
Right.
You know, that person that saw that post, you know, you might have 5 likes on a video, but if one of those likes was from someone whose life you just saved.
Oh, that means more than anything. Right.
Fuck all the likes.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even like, just to go back a little bit from the been writing these poems, man, I think one thing, like, okay, I love that it went viral and everything like that. People written, but I had people personally message me and say like, yo, I have not written a poem like 5-10 years, and this is the challenge that really made me a poem. That meant more to me than the, you know.
That's insane.
Yeah. So
to bring that out of someone. I mean, Jamal met one of my friends who used to write poetry, and within a couple conversations with Jamal, like, she was writing poetry again.
Beautiful.
And like the joy that I could see on her face in having had that experience again, it's priceless.
Yeah, it's priceless. And that conversation that Jamal had, that awakened her inner child to like, oh man, I forgot I love poetry so much. Let me get back to this. And that's what we have to do for all human beings. You know, that we all are looking for an escape, or looking to return back to that inner child selves, where creativity and stuff like that is fun. So even if I'm not inspiring you to write another poem, I hope that I can inspire you to draw again, to you know, to take pictures again, to read again. Yeah, to read again, whatever, to bike again, whatever is fun was for your inner child, you can do that in your adulthood as well. Word.
Yeah. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention this as part of our conversation, but you recently cut your locks.
Oh man,
you have had those locks for as long as I've known you. What led to that decision? How did it feel for you?
Yo, honestly, it's not as deep as people are making it seem. You know, I don't want to give like a whole philosophical answer. Ultimately, no funny shit. Like, first of all, the way I grew the locks, like, COVID happened, so I couldn't really cut my hair, so it was just growing. I was like, yo, I'm gonna just try doing locks. Eventually, I grew an attachment to them, and I always like I treat my locks the same way I treat my plants. Like, if I'm treating my locks fine, I know life is going good. If I'm treating my plants fine, I know my life is going good. If once it becomes a mess, I know something is off in life. So I had kept that up for like 5 years, and I think I just looked at myself one time in the mirror, and I was like, man, like, maintaining these, it's expensive, dog, and I got bills to pay and shit like that, and I'm just like, man, you know what? I think I'm gonna just snip it off. So it wasn't nothing crazy. Again, I did have this 5 to 20 second moment when he was cutting off my locks, the barber, and I was like, oh shit, I felt like I was letting go of everything that I, you know, all the good, the bad that I witnessed with these locks on my head. And I don't know, it was like a sign from the universe, like I heard like a signal or something like that saying like, yo, you're ready for your new chapter. And yeah, I'm just looking to see what this brings me. So word.
Yeah. That's what it was. Speaking of your new chapter, what's next for Kamayera and Asoko?
Oh man, that's a great question, man. I'm just, of course, continuing to take care of my health, my mental health, and looking for all the ways to push the boundaries of poetry, specifically audio, like art-wise, in terms of like coming out with different projects. I'm already working on my next album. You know, so a lot of people don't know that, but I guess I'm gonna put it. Yeah. So I already have the sounds that I want, the features that I want, the samples that I want to pick from. I want to interlope. So yeah, the album, you know, hopefully next year, 2026, summer comes out. I have a full-length book. I know I released a chapbook, but I want to come out with another full-length book that really entails my life story. And I have a one-man show coming up for Blackberry Molasses, like a one-night only, you know, I'm going to perform the whole album from start to finish. But yeah, most importantly, just like using my voice off the stage more. I think that's most important. Creating these workshops, you know, that brought me a lot of joy when we did the Dear Brother joint. So just more of that, being a multifaceted person beyond the stage. That's what's next for me. Or just holistically taking care of every aspect of me from a mental health, physical health perspective, but also using my voice in all the ways that I can.
Yeah. I'm really happy you mentioned the health aspects of it. We neglect that a lot.
Yeah.
Staying on top of it.
Right.
Well, I'm looking forward to being a witness to it all. Thank you again so much. This was King Kamayera with Gene for the Modern Poets NYC. So much love in this room. Appreciate so much more to be created.
For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank y'all, man. Word.
We'll see y'all next time.
Word. Peace out. was phenomenal, man. That was great, man. Oh,